Brad White is with us today to talk a little bit about what MDOT is doing to get ready for this storm. Brad, is it going to be a big one?
It looks that way, especially for the northern part of the state, Highway 82 corridor north. I mean, we're expecting there to be a lot of ice, freezing rain in that area. I think the worst case scenario from the last thing I saw, if you drew a line from the city of Natchez upward to the capital city and then on to Columbus, everything on the north side of that line could potentially see a lot of ice. So we began earlier in the week having our maintenance teams get equipment ready, making sure all the materials we would need to try to pre-treat roads, and everything was gassed up, oiled up, and ready to go. This morning at daylight, North Mississippi, we had areas where our maintenance crews were out beginning brining the road, which is putting out a substance that basically helps keep, when water gets on the road, keep it from freezing. Also preparing the bridges for all of that. Central Mississippi, because of the rain we've had down here, you can't put that substance out because it would just be washed away before it could set up and do any good. But hopefully starting tomorrow about 9 o'clock, we'll have equipment out through central part of Mississippi and southwest Mississippi preparing the roadways, and particularly the bridges and overpasses and things like that. But if this storm gets as bad as what it could be, and we see the level of ice and things like that MEMA and others have been kind of talking about, then no real amount of preparation that we do could necessarily make everything safe. So it is important for everybody to be prepared, I think, over the weekend to try to stay home and off the roads as much as possible.
Brad, when you're looking at equipment for MDOT, is it regionalized in that it's in different compartments of the state, or do you move things around depending on how bad it is?
Well, like with this, we have moved things around. We'll have some of equipment in our District 5, which is capital city back to Meridian area. We'll have some equipment from there going to help support the District 3 that covers most of the Mississippi Delta from Vicksburg up to Cleveland. Obviously, for example, the last time we had some winter weather and the Gulf Coast was covered in snow, we don't keep snow plows on the Gulf Coast. That's very unusual. But we did relocate snow plows from North Mississippi down to the Gulf Coast in order to help take care of that. So that was part of the preparation that we did the earlier part of this week, is making sure that we're not just mobilizing our forces, but that we're looking at our resources as a whole and making sure we're locating them consistent with what the projections and the forecast show.
Northerners always laugh at us Southerners when we get prepared like this for something,
Right.
But we really aren't necessarily. MDOT, of course, preparing as best as we can, but on a whole, because we don't have this weather very often, we're
Right.
not really prepared even mentally for something like this.
Right, but it wouldn't be financially prudent for us to have the same type of equipment as one of the DOTs of the far northern states, that fight snow and stuff almost year-round. But I do feel good about where we are. We have appropriate resources. We've stockpiled materials. We have some of the best workforce in the state. Our maintenance crews are our first responders. They're the ones. Governor Haley Barbour tells a story back during Katrina that as soon as Katrina passed and they were trying to get the Guard and the Highway Patrol and everybody mobilizing down to the Gulf Coast to get the aid to the coast, it was MDOT maintenance forces that were the tip of the spear, cutting the trees and removing the debris from Highway 49 so that everybody could get to the coast. And so that's what you're seeing out right now is all of our maintenance crews, and they don't do it for the money, that are out there doing what they can to prepare the transportation system in a way that when it gets bad, if a fire truck or an ambulance or other first responders need to get through, that we've done our part to help make sure that the people that need help get it. And I'm very proud of them, and they're kind of the unsung heroes of our agency.
How closely does MDOT work with the National Weather Service to right now, Jackson is a huge question mark. The central part of Mississippi, we don't know in that area what's going to happen. We feel pretty confident, as you said, 82, north of 82, we're probably going to see something. The university's preparing because they most likely are going to get hit with this if this storm system comes through.
Right.
With Jackson being a big question mark, then how much effort and supply do you put toward that right now, not knowing what's going to happen?
Well, I mean, this is a team sport, and so Governor Reeves does a good job of everything that's centralized basically at MEMA. But this morning at 9 o'clock, our staff took part in a call where you had the National Guard, DPS, MEMA, and all the other appropriate agencies involved. That they're communicating, I'm sure, with the local emergency management people in each of the counties and municipalities that will be in the projected affected areas. So there is a lot of overlap and communication going on to make sure that we're sharing resources, make sure we're sharing information, that everybody's on the same page so that we're working in tandem with one another. to take care of the people of Mississippi. So it's a true team sport, and like I said, it's when Mississippi's at its best. One thing that we do well as a state is respond to disasters, because we've unfortunately had our share of them, from tornadoes to hurricanes to ice storms. And I'm real proud of the network of sister agencies that we have to work with to help accomplish that.
It's interesting, although it's a little bit of a sideline. When I think about Hurricane Katrina and people will talk about, oh, it hit New Orleans, I always have to correct them and say, no, actually, It didn't. The levees broke. It hit Mississippi. And the reason why you didn't hear a lot about it is because Mississippians just pulled up their bootstraps and started working.
That's exactly
And
right.
I think that's a testament to what you do. When you look at a storm like this coming through, whether it's a tornado system or whether it's ice and snow, which we're looking at right now, when you face something like that, what exactly is MDOT's role versus these other agencies that you referenced? What do you have to do that is your job?
Well, obviously, we're overseeing all the state highways, interstate highways, and all the bridges on that state and federal system. So we're trying to, one, make sure that they're as prepared to be as safe as possible. Fighting Mother Nature is always an uphill battle, so I want to urge everybody, don't get any false confidence in that. I mean, we need to manage expectations. We're doing everything we can to make sure we try to keep lanes of traffic open, to make sure we prepare the bridges so that they don't ice over and that the people can get traction to safely cross over them. But that's primarily our big role. But a lot of our responsibility will come when the storm's over, because there's going to be a lot of limbs down, trees down. There's going to be a lot of power lines impacted by this. And so coming back after a storm and removing debris and getting the roads cleared and all of that stuff is equally challenging and an important part of what you'll see happen over the course of the next week.
Cost-wise, because every time we have a disaster, this has to cost our state because we're paying overtime. Are you budgeted for this through MDOT?
We do. The legislature has been very good to us in making sure that we have the appropriate resources available. Now, when damages reach a certain point, there's opportunity to seek federal reimbursement for those, and we'll know more about that once it's over and we see the degree to which damage was done and what kind of debris there was to remove. But we make sure that we have a budget prepared for these moments, because we know that they're going to come in some form or fashion. And so a big part of what we do and what our teams do is just making sure that we're prepared.
Do you work with other states, sistering states that may also be facing this? Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana?
We stay in contact. I'm on a group text with all of my counterparts that run the Department of Transportation in our surrounding states. Obviously, if one state is impacted to a great extent and others are not, and there's an opportunity to share resources in the way of equipment and manpower there if needed. Hopefully we won't need that, but we do work together when necessary.
We're talking with Brad White right now, who's the executive director of MDOT, about this looming storm that we could be facing this weekend. Mostly it looks like it's going to be northern Mississippi that will be impacted the hardest, but there is a big question mark on central Mississippi and what could happen here. That mixture you talked about that we put on the roads, that is what, sand? It's kind of a weird, it's not salt.
Yeah, don't get me to lie. I mean, we do use sand. We do use salt, and that is components of this, but brine is just some material that once it's put up and it's allowed to set up, it performs a layer right above the asphalt that when the water hits it, it prevents it from freezing. And so it's a very effective tool that we have in our toolbox. But
so less likely to get black ice.
When it's starting to rain, though, you can't put it out because the water will wash it
so
away.
Once that happens.
So that's the reason North Mississippi is getting treated today. Central Mississippi, we're hoping to start in the morning. We're doing that. But if we're unable to use that, we'll fall back on some other old faithful techniques that were used in the past before that was developed. So we'll be one way or the other taking care of our responsibilities.
We're talking to Brad White with MDOT. We're going to have more with him and this storm coming up as we continue here on Midday. I'm Linda Allen. Welcome back to SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm Linda Allen filling in for Gerard this morning. It's 12:21. Want to give you an update on Alcorn State. There was a lockdown earlier today because of a threat to campus. It was an email threat that came in, and they issued a brave alert, posting a statement on social media asking students to stay in place. We understand now that that has been lifted. Again, the lockdown that was taking place at Alcorn State due to an email threat, that has been lifted. I'm sure the news department and JT will be following that and and have more for us as that develops in case there's more information on that we need to know about. We're talking to Brad White today, the Executive Director of MDOT. You know why? Because it's snow time in Mississippi. You know, January, February, 1st of March. It's that, you know how it is, right? It's just that time of the year where you never quite know how to dress. You go out in the morning and it's cold and it's 80 by the time you head home in the afternoon. Well, not this weekend, folks, because we are looking at a storm, and if you live north of 82, chances are you're going to see something. MDOT getting ready. Brad, we were talking about what you're doing statewide, and I think we want to also clarify with those that are with us today that there is a differentiation between what you do and what cities do, municipalities.
Correct. Yeah.
So what city you live in, that will also determine how aggressive they are in preparing for this potential ice storm.
Correct. The Mississippi Department of Transportation is in charge of all state highways and interstate highways. So you'll have the county's boards of supervisors that are responsible for the county roads across the state. You'll have each individual municipality responsible for the city streets and bridges within that municipality. Now, we work very closely together, and we try to coordinate where we can. But there is a difference in the jurisdiction and who's responsible for what. So we'll cover anything that has a number, like I-55, I-20, Highway 49, and all the way down to the 3-number 2-lane highways. But that's where our jurisdiction starts and stops.
So if my side road is blocked, I can't call you.
Don't call me. That's right.
We'll
I'm
call
sorry.
you directly. I know you work for the state, and there's a state issue with MDOT, but I'm sure that you've seen things that people do that either make the job harder for you or make it easier for you. Do you have suggestions for people? You get stuck on the side of the road.
People getting out when they should stay home. I mean, when you get to after dark, for example, you're not going to have ice thawing out or anything. It gets colder when the sun goes down, obviously. And we really care about the safety of our own workers. You don't want our people out at night any more than they have to be out. So if individuals get out when they should stay home or stay indoors and they get themselves stuck, or they drive across a power line, or they do something that causes harm,
Something stupid.
They're also then putting MDOT crews, law enforcement, and other people to a test. And there's oftentimes you have in weather such as this, if someone gets stuck, a lot of times tow trucks won't come get you because of the danger it is to get out on the roadway at that time. So, I mean, the advice that I would give is if you don't have to be out, certainly after dark, stay indoors until the storm's passed.
If you're out and your car breaks down, you have a flat tire or you have a mechanical issue, how does that impact you guys in trying to keep the roads clear and putting the treatment down on the roads and things like that? What do people do? They just leave their car there and wait for you to move it?
Well, a lot of times they do that. I mean, we don't move the vehicles, a lot of times. It's a tow truck has to be called. Law enforcement works that, and it really complicates things, like I say, particularly at night, particularly if it's an 18-wheeler. We were talking back in February of 2021. Someone had some pictures the other day of an 18-wheeler was in the middle of the highway that had stopped in the middle of the highway and was having to put chains on because they had lost traction, and they were having to put chains on their tires right at that moment in the middle of the highway. So there is a real danger there. And like I said, our first priority above even the responsibility of keeping the road safe is keeping those individuals that's entrusted to me as our team safe. And I'm not going to put them in harm's way if we can help it. And so the cooperation and trying to ensure that everybody acts with a little common sense would be helpful. But unfortunately, common sense isn't always that common.
It doesn't always prevail, does it? I know. When we look at this storm system, January, we're toward the end of January. Is this a typical time to see something like this in dealing with roads and problems and ice?
Yeah, but I mean, you mentioned March. I mean, my birthday's in mid-March, and I can remember spring break. It's snowing in Mississippi sometimes. So it's kind of like that old saying, if you don't like the weather in Mississippi, hang around, no change. Who can predict what'll happen,
We certainly don't want anyone to get hurt, and we don't want to see, damage. But this has got to be a little bit of an exciting time because it gets everybody's adrenaline up. Everybody's working together as a team. And I guess it's also a test. You can really see how well you're able to work together when you're put to the test.
It is. And, one of the sayings that we have around our department is when weather's at its worst, our folks are normally at their best. I can't brag enough on our team of maintenance people and emergency management folks throughout the state. We've had in the last snowstorm in 2021, we had an individual that could not get out of his driveway, and he walked several miles to get to the maintenance barn to be able to get on the snowplow, to be able to get out in the highways. We've got others that have done other heroic acts on the sides of the interstate, from delivering babies to all sorts of other stuff. And as I mentioned earlier, these people aren't getting rich doing it. I mean, our primary goal in the legislative session of this year is to try to get the authority increased within our budget to help continue moving salaries to pay them a more fair wage because of they earn it. But when weather and times are at their worst, that's when our people are at their best. And that is something that's very reassuring and makes me proud in moments like this, that if there's a silver lining, you're able to see the quality of individuals that make up our department.
You mentioned the truckers earlier, and that raised a question for me, too, because we can't always keep truckers off the road. They have to do their job. Right. Do they communicate with MDOT at all? Do you send out warnings? How are they informed about what goes on?
I'm glad you said that. We have a traffic app that everybody can access. We're very active, obviously, on social media, but the MDOT traffic app is something that you can go to and access all the cameras around the state that are looking at important intersections, but we also have all of the alerts that tell you what bridge may be closed, what highway may be closed, what anything that's happening on our system year-round, we cover with that application that anybody can download and get. And then obviously we try to stay in touch with our partners in the media to make sure that any information we have, that they put out, and then of course on all of our various social media platforms that we try to promote that. So we try to get as much information out as possible. Senator Cochran used to say people are normally down on what they're not up on, so we do have part of our responsibilities making sure that the public's up on what we're doing and what we're facing so that they will know how to act accordingly.
The highway signs that we see that are automated, that we, the billboards, so to speak, some of them very, very clever. Is MDOT responsible for that and the messaging that goes up there?
We are. Our public affairs division comes up with that. And a lot of times by help from the public, we have a lot of people from around the state that send in suggestions. So a lot of the more clever ones you see are coming from just contests that we have and other things. But by and large, our public affairs division drafts those and puts them out on a regular basis.
You feel very ready for this, whatever we encounter?
I do. I believe, there's an old saying, all you can do is all you can do, and most of the time that's enough, and that's what we're trying to do. But I have a lot of confidence in our people. I think that we've done everything that we can to make sure we've got the equipment ready, make sure we've got the materials ready, make sure we've got our people strategically placed around the state, make sure that we're staying in communication with our sister agencies and knowing what the lay of the land is supposed to be, and doing everything from the preventative measures beforehand to monitoring and taking action during, and then being prepared to get out with chainsaws and other equipment when it's all over. So I feel real good about it, and I have a lot of confidence in our team.
I asked Rhino about this earlier. I'm going to ask you. You're a Mississippian. How many events like this have you been through? This ice, because ice is so different than snow.
Yeah, we fight to some level. We fight ice every year in North Mississippi, especially. As I mentioned, it was last year, I guess it was, that we had the unusual occurrence of having to send snowplows to the Mississippi Gulf Coast. That's a little bit unusual. Mm-hmm. But the last time we faced anything like this, I feel like I'm pretty safe saying it was back in February of 2021. And of course, at that time, I was in the governor's office and not at MDOT. But it was a rallying cry for all the agencies and emergency responders to come together to try to address the problems that came with that, from busted pipes to down power line. I mean, it's more than just the highways that we're responsible for at MDOT are just a small portion of the things you have to worry about. I mean, your power companies are out in full force coordinating and doing the same thing we're doing, preparing and being ready for the worst and able to help out their customers.
What is your greatest fear? Is it the down power lines? What is the biggest hassle when we have an ice storm come through?
I mean, you've got down trees, down limbs, power lines down, ice on the road, and people trying to drive out in it. That's the biggest thing that causes us a concern. Because at night, if people can't see, someone out when they're not supposed to be out or don't have to be out, especially someone that's not experienced in driving. A lot of your truckers know what they're doing if they're on the interstate. But people out traveling a 2-lane highway through rural Mississippi in the middle of an ice storm at 11 o'clock at night, that's not a good place to be if you don't have to be.
And elderly too, if your eyesight's not great.
Causes the most problems.
Yeah. Are you expecting, we expect problems then, so to speak?
Oh, yeah.
Anything else you want folks to know?
No, I just we appreciate the opportunity to serve the people of Mississippi, and we look forward to doing our best to keep the highways and bridges open and safe.
Brad White, thank you for joining us, Executive Director of MDOT. I know you've got a lot of work ahead. More
you for having me.
caffeine? Would you like another
I'm
cup of
good.
coffee?
No, I'm
You
good
may
right
need
now.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. I appreciate
Thank you for
it.
having me.
It is 12:31.